So, Mr. Jackson, what seems to be the problem?
It's my insomnia, Doctor. I tried everything, but I just can't get to sleep at night.
I see. So the pills I gave you, they're not working?
No.
Okay, well, this calls for extreme measures. I'm going to prescribe to you qualifying for the 2012 Indian Grand Prix.
Hello and welcome to Gareth Jones on Speed. I'm Gareth and there's no hope for me because when a friend phoned me up the other week and asked me to advise what car I think they should buy, do you know what I said?
For some reason I immediately thought Citroen DS and I don't know
That's
why.
interesting.
You recommended
Why would you recommend that to anyone who just wants a car?
a shooting brake or an S-Max?
Curiously, no. Do you know what I suggested? I said, that was the voice of Zog, by the way. How you doing?
Hello?
I actually suggested they bought a Honda Jazz, which is why I think there's no hope for me.
Well, that's all right.
Exactly.
Sensible
Whenever
choice.
I get asked to recommend cars for people to buy, if it's someone who's not especially into cars and they just need a car, I always recommend something Japanese because I'm pretty confident it won't break down and then they won't come round to my house and shout at me for recommending a car that doesn't work anymore.
Yeah,
Which is why I wouldn't recommend a Citroen DS to, my godmother. Because she'd ring me up and go, Richard, it's leaking green fluid all over the drive again. I'm not sure what's happening.
I keep recommending old Mercedes estates to people who have got sort of young families and they're sort of looking at
I've done that.
MPVs and things.
Yeah.
And I said, no, don't get one of those silly. Get an old Mercedes estate, nice and cheap, a bit more character.
Have you decided on a car for your dog option yet?
No, she can't drive.
Don't forget
Don't remember to try the real tippy waiter. Yeah, because I know you've travelled a bit recently and you've seen some unusual, interesting cars in the America. Did any of those fit your requirements as being dog friendly?
No, I didn't. I temporarily suspended my dog wagon quest because I went to the US the other week. Well, they don't like estates in the US.
They don't. Wagons. They don't like wagons.
They
no.
don't, because they have
SUVs.
SUVs. I did get led down a path that I had already tentatively stepped down. Was while I was there, I was given a lift in someone's Land Rover Discovery 3, or LR3 as they call it out there.
It's not called a Discovery, is it?
No, because Discovery has such a bad rep out there from the previous
Clutches,
generations.
transmission,
probably
back door.
everything, And so it's called the LR3 out there, but it's the same car, and I got a ride in that. Now, the crucial thing is that over there, his car, as they all are, was petrol-powered, 4.4-litre V8, made a discreet but pleasant V8 noise, had a bit of a turn of speed, and I thought, this is just magnificent. To the point, I came back to this country and started looking up petrol Discovery 3 on Auto Trader on the basis that they must be so unwanted, they'll be incredibly cheap, and I could use all the money I've saved over not buying a diesel one to put fuel in it, and then I decided that was an incredibly stupid idea. And the road tax would be like 425 quid a year, and before you'd know, I'd just be bankrupt. But I've come over here tonight in a Discovery 4, the latest one, which I borrowed from Land Rover because I said to them I'm thinking of buying a Discovery, and they very kindly said, well, do you want to try one out for a week and see if the dog likes it? The dog loves it. It's got a nice big boot. Also, split tailgate, and that bottom bit. So what I discovered last night is I didn't put her sort of cage thing in. I just lined the boot, bunged the dog in, and then you can put the bottom bit up. Then you can take her lead off her collar and she can't escape and run from the boot as she tries to do sometimes. And then you close the top bit. And that glass, that dips down, she can look out, because she's only 4 months old, so she's quite wee. She can look out the back. I noticed for the first time in any car that she was just watching the road going by behind us. And
What exactly are your dog's criteria for liking a car? I'm interested in, can you say the dog likes it?
She likes Bluetooth and audio, preferably as well.
She's
She's a dog. I mean, quite honestly, she sits on the back seat of our Fiat 500. We've got a little harness and it clips into the seatbelt thing. She's happy as anything. Put a towel down.
I hope it's got like Momo insets on.
It would be
harness.
nice. It hasn't at the moment, but she's growing. We're going to need a bigger one. I'll get a Momo one.
Do you know what you need? That Volvo that we had, the XC70, it's got a fold-down top cage that separates the rear load area from the back. It just folds down from the roof, very nice, and plops into place, lovely.
I thought that was for children.
I did use that to keep the kids in there for a while. That was actually brilliant because we had so much stuff in the back that stopped it all from flying forward when I slammed on the anchors. One of those would do.
I'm in a bit of a dilemma on this one. I'm sorry to go on about my problems that aren't really problems, but I don't know what to get. Part of me wants a car that's fun to drive. The truth is, the dog at the moment isn't very big, but the vet has warned us she could get up to about 40 kilos at full stretch, which is 6 stone. That is actually quite a big dog.
Yeah, it's a fairly big dog.
So there is, in a way, a need for a big car, but not that big. The Discovery I'm driving at the moment, I at various points start to think this could be all the car you might ever need. It's not a sports car, clearly, but it's not dreadful to drive.
It's too big.
It is too big. Well, here's an interesting thing. I met the man who designed the Discovery. Dude. I know, it's socially unacceptable, but but the man who designed the Discovery said to me, I said that I really like the Discovery, but it's too massive for London. He went, it's not as big as people think. It's pretty much the length of a Ford Mondeo estate.
4.83 metres, is that right?
I don't know. In fact, the Mondeo saloon...
estate.
Oh, no, the saloon is even longer, bizarrely.
Really? Than the estate?
The saloon is longer than a Discovery. The estate is not. I don't know why.
Girlfriend,
But
did you do a quick search for us and find out the length of the Land Rover Discovery 4? Just out of interest, I bet it's 4.84 metres or thereabouts.
I don't know.
It isn't massive, you're right. It's just very tall and very
It's very tall and very imposing. Yeah. The man who designed it told me a brilliant thing. You know that car design cliche about even when it's stopped, it looks like it's moving. Which I heard like 3 times at the Paris show in presentations and things. It's just, oh God, it's such a cliche. But this chap, Andy Wheel, he's amusingly called, who designed the Discovery 3/4, said when they were doing that car, they wanted it to look like it was stopped even when it was moving. Anyway, I know what you mean, Tom. It's just too big, but it's a very nice thing to drive, and it has a lot to recommend it. If I had 3 children and a dog, I think it would be much more persuasive.
As good for hounds.
My wife and I, rattling around in that with the mutt in the back, just looks a bit, knobby. So
a bit North London.
It's a bit North London. Well, I live in North London. What can I do?
Hang on, we got news coming in.
LR4.
Yeah.
Length. Do you want millimetres or
yes,
inches?
Millimetres.
Can we have both? Because I'm really bad on metric stuff.
4,838 millimetres.
Go on, what's that in it?
190.5 inches.
190, so that's what? That's that's about 1,000 feet?
Yeah.
We're in a full spinal tap. About 1,000 hours.
Half the length of a blue whale or
a Labrador.
No,
2 double-decker buses.
It is surprisingly not as big as you think, but the sheer height of it just makes it look massive and therefore makes people think that you're a selfish, awful human being. It's fine.
As long as it's not an X5, I'm
exactly.
a little bit better.
Well, they're socially unacceptable and there's just looking like a dreadful
twonk.
Good evening, sir. Very nice car you've got here. Thank you, officer. It's a Land Rover Discovery. I really like it. I bet you do, sir. Do you know how fast you were going back there? I'm sorry, I don't. I can't actually read numbers. I'm a dog, you see. Well, actually, sir, you were 6 miles per hour under the speed limit. So do you know why I've stopped you? Oh, I get it. Late at night, nice car. It's 'cause I'm a black Labrador, isn't it?
Sniff Petrol with Gareth Jones on speed!
There are 9 things that occupy my life all the time. I won't list all 9 of them. I will list the top 2. The things that take up most of my life are running our children to various clubs and things, which involves cars.
Yeah.
And the other one is maintenance, usually of the house or the car or some piece of equipment that the children have broken. There is one thing that my children dumped. Your life...
Fear, total obedience to the Catholic...
Yeah,
Sorry.
No, I'm with you on that quote completely. Zog, your life is dominated in many ways by your sheer bloody-mindedness and determination to fix everything on your Porsche, isn't it?
Well, occasionally. Early this year, it was rather dominated by my determination to fix a whole load of stuff. I spent quite a while doing timing belts and balance belts and cylinder head gaskets and stuff. Got it all done. It's actually, I can...
It did go rattle for a while, but then you fixed it.
I can attest that you can, even without having done a lot of these jobs before, if you're just prepared to dive in there and read the right sources, ask advice from the right people and, have a bit of patience, get the right tools and some nitric acid, you can fix just about anything. But yeah, it's
you've been fixing it again. What have you fixed this time?
Well, yeah, it's funny you should ask that. No, it was a bit because as I was hinting to you before, I was just recently just doing a couple of little things, very simple things compared to the rather challenging mechanical stuff I was doing before. But things that just actually made a huge difference to the everyday experience of running your car. But the main thing was just fixing my washer jets, which have been a bit iffy for quite a while. And
fixing this was harder than... did you replace the conrod rod in your engine, didn't you?
No, well, no, it was not harder than doing all of the cylinder head stuff, but it was infuriatingly hard to get to the root of a couple of things that were wrong with it.
Why?
Because basically, well, to get back to the start, the jets just weren't working reliably. And, if they're not working reliably, that's hardly any use to you, because most of the time, when you work your washers, you're doing it because you can't see out of your windscreen as well as you'd like, and you want to see better right then and there, and if the jets aren't coming on, then that's really not very helpful.
System's not doing what it says on the
exactly,
box.
The washer jets completely broke on a car that I had years ago, and I started trying to fix it. They're very fiddly, and, it seems there was some blockage somewhere, and the pipework goes all down the bulkhead and then through the engine. The washer bottle's usually moulded into some obscure shape to fit into a spare hole
funny,
at the front of the engine bay. And I just looked at this and I thought, I am way out of my depth to do something that I thought would be simple.
And
I carried a bottle of water with one of those squirty caps on it that I just used to refill. And I would just lean my arm out of the window, which was fine if you were stuck in traffic. On the motorway, it was a little hairy, but eventually I got a garage to fix it. It cost me like 150 quid or something, and it was a bit annoying. But you realise that washer jets are a pretty essential part of the car.
I just out of a sunroof. Pull that sunroof back and let one go. Couldn't do it while you were moving. It always ends in disappointment.
And that's why we don't drive behind Gareth.
So why wasn't it working?
Well, I eventually got to the root of it, because your first thing is I just need to fill it up again. And, it wasn't that the water kept leaking out.
So it had water in it and it wasn't leaking.
It had water in it.
The pump was working?
The pump was working. Check that out. But the first thing I figured out was that the water wasn't staying in the pipework, that it just kind of kept draining back down.
Mercury. You had mercury in it by mistake.
There you go. So I got another couple of those little one-way sort of stop valves and just added those into the tube work so the water wouldn't drain back down.
Yeah. Didn't work?
And that did stop the water draining back down, but it didn't actually solve the problem completely. I still wasn't getting water out most of the time that I put the washers on. I had a bit more investigation, and I realised that there was all this kind of slime and stuff at the bottom of the tank. I kept unclogging the little filter thing at the bottom of the pickup tube.
By slime, you don't mean the 80s Dayglow toy that felt like snot?
No,
Right.
although it kind of looked vaguely reminiscent. It had a little bit of greenish tinge to it, and it was a bit sort of snotty, and it was a bit, and it just kept, it's just always gunging up.
What you been doing in filling in there?
No, don't even go. But it was what's
like an algae.
Exactly. Yeah, it was kind of like, maybe it was algae. I didn't have it analysed, but it could have been some kind of algae.
Send this
thing. No, sludge. No, sludge, I think, implies particulate matter to me. Slime implies something that's a bit more kind of fluid and a bit more So and this was definitely slime rather than sludge. I kept trying to, I flushed the tank out a couple of times, and this kind of slime, it kept building up again, and it just, would keep blocking up the pickup tube. And eventually what I came up with was, this is a bit of a DIY thing, because as you know, I like to go for the DIY improvised solution rather than just constantly topping it up with some expensive, high-tech German washer fluid.
Did you employ acid again then?
No, methylated spirits.
Really?
Yeah, I'm filling my washer tank now with just water.
Do you not come back to your parked car and find tramps suckling on your washer jets?
No, but I did once have a car that a tramp lived in for a couple of days. This is the problem with having a car that you can't lock. That occasionally people will live in it. It turns out.
Hang on, Zog, you're putting mess in your. Did you never park your car outside a club and someone put the fag out? Boom! There goes your Porsche.
It's all about proportions.
Oh, okay.
I'm not filling up the tank.
Dilute, right?
Dilute, right. Exactly. It's mostly water with a little bit of meths, which has antifreeze properties, so it's going to stop the washer water from freezing so easily. And secondly, it's toxic to whatever stuff it was that was making the gloop, or was the gloop, whatever it was. And it's just been working like a dream ever since I put the extra valves in and then flushed it out and replaced it with my new DIY bit of water, bit of methylated spirits mixture. So
top tip.
Yeah, maybe just a little dab of Persil or other washing up liquid of choice. So yeah, that was the solution. Works a treat. And I've got washer action every time I hit the lever.
The solution, Zog, if I may put it to you, was a solution.
Oh, I like it. I see what
There'll be more
there.
science-based puns in a minute.
Ha 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 ha. I just love science puns, and that is why I like these guys too. Gareth Jones on Speed should be the podcast of choice for all scientists. It is well wicked, like a black hole with a zone of habitability around it. If only they knew what they were talking about, though.
Gareth Jones on Speed.
It's been an extraordinary and is still an extraordinary year, 2012. A lot of people enjoyed the Olympics in the summer. Some people enjoyed the whole... how old was the Queen? Was it her birthday or something? What was it we celebrated?
No, it's the Golden
Jubilee.
Golden
60th.
Yeah.
60 years on the throne.
I gather Morrissey didn't enjoy it. According to
He
that
doesn't
interview.
enjoy anything,
He's a
does he?
miserable old...
He doesn't enjoy anything these days.
And topped off very recently by some crazy astronaut jumping out of a balloon and parachuting to Earth. That was incredible.
terrific.
Go Felix. Wow.
Apart from Morrissey. Morrissey didn't enjoy that at all.
Well, in that case, I bet Morrissey won't enjoy the next major thing in my forward-looking radar.
Is it the Smiths reunion? Because Morrissey is not going to enjoy that.
And I bet he won't enjoy Bloodhound SSC trying to do 1,000 miles per hour. No, it's not his sort of thing, is it?
So you're very up on this. Give us the headlines. When's this supposedly happening, then?
Is it 2014 they're aiming to do it on Haxkeen Pan?
But I thought they've had an army of people out there and they've cleared tons of small stones.
Yeah, I think that's just
Well,
the start of it.
they've
That's just
identified,
the
yeah,
practice.
they've identified the place where they're going to do it, which wasn't such an easy thing to do, identifying a suitable spot. They had the motor test recently, but
Yes.
Well,
sorry, just to interrupt, but the place where they're doing it is at Salt Flats.
In South Africa.
Because just recently, just as an interesting aside, I
it was
drove on
Australia. Sorry, isn't it?
Haxkeen Pan is in South
Yeah, I thought it was
Africa.
South Africa.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'll take
just-
it.
They looked at places in Australia, but they weren't quite flat enough. They used
okay.
satellite imagery to find the perfect place. And about the only place on Earth big enough to achieve what they're going to achieve is this Haxkeen Pan, which you can actually sing to the tune of Postman Pat if you want. I'll just leave that with you now.
Okay.
I'll take your word for it. I'm not going to give it a try.
And every time I hear Haxkeen Pan, in my head it goes...
Oh, it's one of those.
Yeah, mine were. Remember where you heard it first. But this is big enough, but the trouble is there's a road going across the end of it. You know, but apparently they're going to manage with that somehow. They've cleared the stones from the side and they've cleared some at the end. But the car that's going to do it, this is the most wonderful thing ever. If you're trying to design a car that'll do 1,000 miles per hour, you need a huge amount of power. You know, it's a real basic law of aerodynamics. The faster you go, the harder it is by a square to go faster. It's a square of the velocity, isn't it, I think?
I'm guessing it'd be something like that the air resistance would increase with the square of your speed or
That's
something
it.
like that.
Yeah.
Maybe, I don't know.
Sounds hilarious.
But it's not going to be linear, is it? Because as you approach supersonic speed, the resistance of the air is building up and building up and building up, and then it drops off again once you get through the sound barrier, right?
Exactly. That's right. Once you're through,
So it's not a simple.
you go through max
so
Q.
it can't be a simple squared law. So we don't really know what we're talking about here. But
Yeah, I don't know the maths of it. No change there. But
And so we get to the Gareth Jones on Speed catchphrase.
we're just thinking it through
yeah,
as
exactly.
we talk.
And we're honest about
Yeah.
it. So they built this car which looks like the front end of a Phantom or something, a point with a cabin. And then, have you seen the shape of the air scoop behind the driver's head? It's like a cartoon. And it's shaped rather like the A1 GP cars used to have, the same sort of shape. This air intake for the Eurofighter engine that they're using. Now, that'll get it up to 300 miles per hour, that engine.
Pat, that's nothing.
That's just to kind of get it off the line.
Yeah,
and then they've got
It's like first gear, really.
It's like a hybrid car, isn't it? Like you drive your Lexus, you go up to 20 miles per hour with the electric motor, and then it all tumbles.
But it is a hybrid car because after that, it's then a hybrid rocket motor that kicks in.
Do you know how the motor works? You probably know more than me.
I don't know the details of this particular engine in detail, but a hybrid rocket motor, it's kind of in between. Okay, to put it as you will well know, Gareth, a solid fuel rocket motor is basically a stick of explosive, and you light one end of it, and it burns.
No throttle.
No throttle. Yeah. A liquid-fueled rocket motor has usually two fluids, a fuel and an oxidizer, and you mix them in a combustion chamber.
And meths in the windscreen washer bottle.
Make sure it
doesn't slime up.
And the beauty of your liquid-fueled motor is that you can throttle it up and down.
But it doesn't produce as much raw power as a solid rocket does.
Well, no, I'm not sure. Okay, I don't know whether that's true or not. Right. You would probably be better informed than me. But the thing is, it's basically more dangerous and it's more difficult to work with because
you can't manage it.
Because a stick of
it's not even
no,
off.
No, because it's a liquid fuel motor. You can throttle up and down. You can control it.
Talking about a solid rocket.
Oh, so and when I'm talking about a liquid fueled motor being more difficult to deal with and more dangerous, it's because you're dealing with liquids, volatile things, and things that are basically much harder to manage than a stick of rock.
Wait, hang on. So
what they've
does the Bloodhound?
Okay, both.
It's in between.
It's got a tube of solid rocket fuel with a gap down the middle.
A constant burn, like a firework. Don't go back to it once you lit it.
But it won't burn without an oxidizer. And this is where the hybrid bit comes in, because what you do is you pump oxidizer, liquid oxygen or
HTP, they call it, high test peroxide, basically concentrated hydrogen peroxide.
So is this where there's a smaller jet engine, right?
No,
it's acting as a pump. They've
got a Formula 1, a Cosworth F1 engine.
Yes, I knew there was something cool.
And this pumps the oxidant into the centre of this SRB, effectively, this hollowed out SRB. So you've got the raw power of an SRB, but it's throttleable as well, because they use the motor as a throttle, because that acts as the turbo pump to get enough fuel in, because rockets burn up fuel at such an outrageous rate, you have to have a hell of a pump to get the fuel in quick enough.
At least if you want to get a hell of a lot of thrust, which is what you need if you want to get up to 1,000 miles an hour. You need to burn a hell of a lot of fuel. One of the things I love about these hybrid motors is there's something wonderfully simple about them, in that the hybrid fuel, the stuff to which they're adding the oxidizer in order to burn, is basically rubber. You've got a load of rubber. You've got a kind of a hollow tube of rubber into which you're pumping your oxidizer, put a match to it, and you've got your hybrid fuel rocket. And you can shut it off by turning off your Cosworth engine.
Virgin Galactic are using a similar rubber and peroxide fuel oxidizer combo for the Spaceship 2, I believe, as well. Right. So two people using similar technologies. I wish them well. It's a lunatic thing to do, 1,000 miles per hour.
Well, they said that about jumping from space, and it turned out well. Let's think warm thought.
Don't you think that jumping out of that capsule is basically an awful lot safer than driving a four-wheeled vehicle at 1,000 miles an hour?
Do you know what? Actually, because jumping from space is either going to go right or it's going to go wrong, but basically if it goes wrong, well, it's and then it's over. But tumbling along the ground in a slowly disintegrating rocket car could go on for ages.
Slowly disintegrating?
Well,
you know that
I think it's a slowly disintegrating person. Really.
You know that Simpsons scene where Homer goes over the edge, and goes on and on.
Yeah, when it just goes on.
Like that.
I thought you meant there's some wedding vows. He writes his own wedding vows when they get remarried, Homer and Marge, and his thing is, in life, or whether spearing across the salt flats in a monkey-powered rocket fuel driver.
Perfect. You've been listening to Gareth Jones on Speed with Richard Porter.
Goodbye.
Zog.
Goodbye.
Me, Gareth. I wish the Bloodhound lot well when they finally get round to going for it. Actually, I want to be there recording the sound of that rocket car and the tears of everyone around. Oh my God, I can't take the tension. Oh, it would be awful. But I want to be there. I love that kind of rocket science and motorsport crossover, which is why I have written and recorded this song in the style of BAD, which stands for Big Audi Dynamite in our case, for copyright reasons. This is Rocket Science. See ya.
The cars are on the track. We don't want it to fall apart. That's the last thing we run into.
You take a chassis, you make it lighter. Add an engine, you build a fighter. Make it lower, give it more power. Run it and test it for hour after hour. There's no magic, there's no voodoo to make it quicker, just depends on what you do. It ain't exactly rocket science, but it's close. It ain't exactly rocket science, but it's close.
That's why they're called Williams Engineering. Oh, they're like that down in Brackley. You have to see, mate, you're driving too bloody far.
Manage the air going over the car. Make it suck like a Dyson. Make that sucker stick to the tar. The very idea's enticing.
I don't like those people.
There's no magic, there's no voodoo to make it quicker, just depends on what you do. It ain't exactly rocket science, but it's close.
No, I mean, with one boot, man.
It ain't exactly rocket science, but it's close.
Good suspension and we see it hopping middle. Worry about the brakes, this car's got to stop it. They know how to get so much quicker. No secret fuel, thanks to the car. Running more right in on the side with lights and graphics. You just can't change the roads of physics.
Take a chassis, make it launcher, automotor, you make it lighter, make it lower, give it more power, run it up and test it, there's no magic, there's no voodoo, making it quicker, just depends on what you do. It ain't exactly rocket science, but it's close. It ain't exactly rocket science, but it's close. It's very close.
He wants to stop bitching at fast and get it in the wind tunnel.
To send us an email, see pictures, get song lyrics, join our Facebook fan site or follow us on Twitter, go to garethjones.tv. Gareth Jones on Speed is made in London by Whiz Bang.
Gareth Jones on